Okay, we are in our site. This is a student view. We have already done the 4 levels of explanation and the research in psychology, discussing sampling, validity, reliability and ethics. And the next thing we're going to discuss in this VOD is the data collection methods and the ways we measure psychological responses for research purposes. They already uploaded the vodcast for the 4 levels and the vodcast related to the sampling. So as usual, we click on this or the bottom of the page. You can click alternative to this and go to the site that it is, the sub-page that it is related to methods of measuring and assessing data. And I need to remind you, now we're using that if you search something here, like ethics, you can find it. You search ethics and you will be able quickly to find everything that's related to ethics, the picture, the work, research, design, ethics, whatever you want that's related to ethics. For example, this part. Okay, so now we are going back to our third topic, discussing about methods of collecting data and analyzing measurements in psychology. I'm going to visit this and discuss this in order when we are going to use specific examples for each one of the kind of data we need to collect. So I'm going now to the website, and I want you to remember that we are here. We have just finished discussing validity, reliability, generalizability, sample representativeness, and the impact of unrepresented group in our design, and of course the ethics. And in order to proceed discussing the data and how we measuring psychological responses, we need to remember that in our mind, when we collect this data, we have to make sure that our sample, our population, is not going to suffer any emotional or physical harm, now or later, intentionally or unintentionally. This, therefore, has to overarch my data collecting method. Okay? Also, you need to understand that the data you're going to collect are always related to the design you're going to use. So data are related to the ethics, to the sample and the population you're going to address, to how you're going to choose your sample so you can represent everybody in order to get reliable, valid data that you can always generalize in the wider community outside of the lab. I want you also to remember that all this reading we're going to discuss here, it's on the page I showed you earlier. So let's go ahead and discuss what we really need to focus on. That the data are related to the design, and sometimes there are research designs that they're named quantitative or qualitative just because of the kind of data we're collecting. For example, you can collect observational quantitative or observational qualitative data. What is the meaning of this? You observe the participants and you collect numbers, okay? Or you observe the participants and you collect information related to their behavior, their drawings, the words they say or how they feel. But if during your observation you collect data related to their brain waves, to their heart rate, or to the speed they respond to a test, in your observational design, these are quantitative data. Another kind of example we have is, let me change the color, it is quantitative experimental research. This tells me that my design is an experiment, but my data are numerical. I'm asking you, think, do we have experimental qualitative? Can I make experiment and have groups and collect emotions, evidence, words? Now you have answered your mind. I'm just asking you to prompt the answer. Zimbardo's experiment, the Stanford Prison experiment. Is it an experiment? Is it quantitative or qualitative, the kind of data we collect? We're going to discuss it, and I'm expecting your answers. Also, I can have quantitative observational research, as I explained earlier. I hope you remember what we said. It is the observational research. You don't make an experiment. We're going to discuss that later. It means you just observe people in their own environment and you collect how many times they say the word I'm scared. Is that qualitative or quantitative? Now you have thought it. Of course it is quantitative because you don't care that they say I'm scared. You care how many times they say scared. And you categorize the people in those who say I'm scared every moment, or those who say I'm scared 10 times or more, those who say I'm scared one time, and those who say I'm scared 5 times. That's a quantitative observational research based on sometimes wordy data. So we need to clarify that and be able to articulate why is what. Also, qualitative observational research is the same thing. You collect evidence, you write down people's statement about their feelings. They're scared, they are enthused. If you decide to write down that people said, I'm scared, people said they are thrilled watching this movie, then because you express their wordy psychological response or psychological behavior, that is a qualitative observational research design. Or when you see a picture, a drawing, and you analyze what they're feeling. I will take it very quickly, and I would like us to see this. When I analyze this data from a person who is drawing this in a specific time of their life, I know that that's a qualitative observational design I'm going to analyze data from. Okay? And also, I want you to remember that we have just qualitative research. when we use a focus group or a Delphi technique, where we just collect wordy data without observing people in their own environment or without experimenting with the people's behavior in an experimental lab-related space. So what I want us to understand, it is that we have quantitative or qualitative data. And qualitative data are the ones that talking about the quality of the response, the qualities that the response is giving me to analyze, the characteristic of the response. So the description, the feelings, the meanings, the pictures, the text, the poem they write, the way they describe their feelings in a movie, these are qualitative data. So in this case, when the researcher is focusing on information about participants' past, about their self-esteem, anger issues, traumas in childhood, we want them to speak about how they feel and how they can interpret the situation. In other cases, I really need quantitative data and numerical information of what I'm studying. So, as I said before, how many times they say, my mother hurt me, I hate my mom. It's very important. Or sometimes when I ask them to rate themselves on self-esteem from 1 to 10, and I can find averages and means and compare this person with other people, and then I can see how this person is self-assessing the self-esteem, because they do know better than anybody else how they rate themselves if they want to be sincere. So this is what we really need to understand, and it's a good idea to go to the page if you want now and read all the information. I'm going to revisit that later in this video when I'm going to finish these 3-4 slides, because I want you to be able to understand the general information first, and then we go and analytically discuss what kind of data fall into the quantitative or the qualitative category. So I want you to pay attention to this. We said that numerical data, quantitative data, come from surveys. When you need to answer yes or no, and then we find how many people have answered yes, how many people have answered no, and we find percentages. Or the survey where you tick a numerical value, like 10%. You are asked how often you do that. From 1 to 2, from 3 to 4, from 5 to 6 times a week, and then you tick that 5 to 6 times a week. Or when you made data and you say the category of their age, the category group of their age in your survey, like 12 to 13, 14 to 15. You know the year level this corresponds, but you want numerical values. Or numerical value could be the score in tests that I'm not setting because I want, but they are standard made by researchers, psychologists. So the IQ test, the personality test, the aptitude test that I'm using to see if I'm good for a job, if I'm good to be a fireman or policeman. We're going to discuss all these tests later in personality, and in the website there are more details on each one of them. Also, data from experiments. When I'm collecting the brain wave and I see that this person, or I'm collecting information about the sleep time, the sleep hours a person is having every night, that is part of numerical data. Also, sometimes I can have qualitative data transformed in quantitative. You ask how many times you have panic attacks per month, per day, or how often, and then I find frequencies. This is also a transformation of the qualitative data to numbers. In my research, I have asked people how they feel. Do they feel Greeks? Do they feel Australians? Do they feel Greek Australians? And then I collected all this data, I put them in numbers and in lists, and I highlighted all those who said I feel Australian, I feel Greek. They answered words, and I made frequencies. And I said, okay, in this whole 9 out of 108 they consider themselves Greeks. In the other school, 9 out of 108 consider themselves Australians. So there's a specific finding from their wordy responses. And I could realize that only when I saw the numbers, when I saw the frequencies. So it's very important for us to understand that sometimes we need to transform words into pictures, into numbers. This is the purpose of bar charts we're going to discuss later. This is the purpose you use in society environment graphs, and you represent data with histograms or bar graphs or percentages and circle pies and everything, charts. On the other hand, we're going to discuss the qualitative data, but we need to finish when we prefer to use quantitative data. We use them because they are easier, very quick to get and summarize them and see the big picture, and because the readers and the people can interpret them easier. And plus, they consider scientific. They consider with frequencies, with means and averages, they consider more scientific, more reliable, and easily comparable with other countries, with other cultures, and save the research a lot of time. Although they are often used lately, we need to know that they lack in the depth of the information, the qualitative, wordy data offering. This was the reason in my research I used both. I used frequencies and I used quality data. And I had presentation of the frequencies, and then I had what people themselves said. Now, quantitative data can be objective, okay, or can be subjective. I hope you understand what we're talking about here. When I make an experiment, the data I collect about the blood pressure of the people, they're objective. I can feel that my blood pressure is high, but the reader says that it is low. So, it doesn't matter. I can feel that my blood sugar is low, but my blood sugar is high, and that means I'm in a stress situation. Or I feel that I'm okay, but my cortisol measurement is up, so I may not consider myself stressed, but my body is already stressed because the cortisol is flooding in my blood. And sometimes they're subjective when you rate yourself. And remember, subjective data are the ones that you express your own ideas. So when you rate yourself from 1 to 10, how good are you in maths from 1 to 10? You say I'm 5. But your tests, the objective data, they say that you are 9 out of 10. And you say I'm okay, I'm 5, because you're modest. And that's a subjective measuring. A self-report with numerical value, it is also subjective. So when I asked you, measure your stress, tell me how alert, how excited you are from 1 to 10, and you say 5, there's no actual measurement, no actual 100% proof that next day in the same situation you will say again 5. You may say 10 or 3. And we're going to discuss what Likert scale is. On the other hand, also qualitative data can be objective, okay, like the ones we discussed earlier, when you take qualitative data and you make them quantitative, okay, because you really do say that I have panic attack 5 times a week, and we can use this data and trying to treat the person. And we say, okay, 5 times a week having panic attack is not okay. Now you need to go and have a therapy where you control your behavior, know what's happening to you and control your behavior. You have a training, cognitive behavior therapy, to control your panic. Or can be subjective data, when you say what you feel, what you believe, and the researcher is analyzing your feelings, your emotions, and tells you what's happening. Very often this is the result of focus group discussion or a one-to-one interview with the counselor, because you say how you feel. When you have a problem and you go to the counselor and you say, I'm stressed, this is happening to me, this is my situation, you really offer subjective data. And the counsellor can say, okay, this time she came very stressed, but the other day she was not so stressed. And the counsellor or the psychologist can see the progress in this behavior. We need to finish this activity, and we may have time to finish it in the class or have time to finish it at home. But we need to do it because it's very important for us. Also, there's another practice. I'm going to do that in the class, and I would like you to stop when you see this slide, answer in your mind, and then continue and be careful from the comments. So this is the first lot, and this is the second lot. I want you to go one by one and start telling me, number one, if they're quantitative or qualitative, the data that you collect in these scenarios, and at the same time if they're subjective or objective. I need to go to the website to discuss some presentation there, and I will continue the answers later. So now we know what objective and subjective data are, and objective and quantitative measures. We're going to discuss some examples of how we can get this data. So when I get, and I want you to study this off by heart, physiological responses like brain activity and from electroencephalograms, functional magnetic imaging to see what color is lighting in your brain, and I can check when the activity of the brain is a lot of less or less. That could be quantitative objective data, because we know that you cannot control that, you cannot lie. You may say I'm not feeling stressed, but your brain, the image in your brain, can say that you're really stressed. The same, it was the example I told you with the physical, psychological arousal, the heart rate, or the galvanic skin response. We are not doing galvanic skin response recently. In your book it is that picture of the blue thing with the silver finger positions that they really use to see the response of your skin reaction, the sweat. I'll try to bring in the class some mood rings that they really work in the same principle. When you put the mood ring in your finger, the color is changing because the crystals absorb the heat of your hands, and when you are stressed, your hands are cold because the blood goes everywhere else but the hands, and this is an indication of physiological response. Also the blood cortisol levels, we said earlier. At the same time, counts of behavior is a quantitative, objective. So you behave in a certain way. You say, I hate, I hate, I hate. I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. I'm panicking 5 times a week. These are behavior counts of observation. So we really count and write down how many times this person is doing something. So the examples, they are counting how many students wear correct uniform, how many do not, to comment on the attitude of the students towards obedience to the norm of the school. It's a very powerful instrument. Few students don't wear the correct uniform in Glenalga. All my students in another school in the country didn't wear the uniform. So we understand the attitude and towards conformity and obedience to the school rules and to the wider society. How many aggressive gestures you are doing, how loud is your voice when you talk to a person. That could be a behavior count. And also, we said that the scores in standardized tests, the IQ tests, we explained that. At the same time, subjective quantitative measures. We said that when we self-report or when we give responses to a checklist by ticking, what are you? Are you introverted or extroverted? You choose word, and we not assess your introversion or extroversion on specific tests. We don't base the decision on specific tests. We base the decision on what you say to us, and that's as a response. It's like a self-report, a self-rating. That is a subjective but quantitative response. Okay, and rating scale. Are you strongly agree, disagree, neither disagree? Or you can say in a line from 5 to 10, where are you? Attitudes to racism, to abortion, to adopted children, to asylum seekers. And of course scores on standardized personality tests, because they are subjective, because you say what you feel on that time. Another time you can do something different. And questionnaires with fixed responses, a yes or no. It is a subjective, because you say yes or no every time, but it is quantitative because we give number to one. One is yes, 2 is no, and then we find frequencies. Last but not least, I want us to discuss the qualitative measures I acquired through Delphi technique and focus group. And in these cases, the researcher is working with inferential meanings and tries to interpret, so can try to find themes and identify these core themes, code these themes, and keep track of the themes and compare people with the themes, and then analyze, find contradictions, different ways. When I finish my research, I have to analyze the themes of their behavior, of the Greek migrants' behavior in South Australia, and it emerged that there were certain attitudes that they were making the taxonomy. They're different types of people, and I end up finding this when I was able to code the themes of the responses and identify the core themes and put them in a mind map. And this was highly helpful, because it showed me the big picture. I couldn't find the big picture by using the words. But when I changed the words into themes and I found frequencies, and I could find codes and put them in categories, I saw the new theory I created for the Greek migrants in Australia. So I want you to understand that, for example, this theme here, checking the emotions of a person when it's tired, of the behaviors of the person when it's tired, and the times the person is tired, I can find that when these people who participate in my research are tired, most of the time they get grumpy. And some of them, they get angry. There is a huge difference between being grumpy and angry. And the less of my sample, almost 1/4, 25% of my sample, becomes moody. Okay? Grumpy, angry, moody is not the same thing. At the same time, though, when somebody is tired as behavior, I don't have here that somebody gets upset or punching people. I get that they are lacking of concentration and sleep. This is indicative of these people are well behaved. They're not punching each other when they're tired, although they get angry. Okay? And all these things really can help the researcher to find the information they need. I want you to remember that on this page I chose to put that video we watched earlier, and that's a good idea on how we allocate people to get data. And I don't know if it's the best position to have it here or in the design, probably in the design, and I have it in both, but it's a good idea to go and watch it again, because it's very important to understand how the data I'm collecting, okay, this kind of data I'm collecting, subjective, objective, they are mainly related to the way I'm allocating my participants in samples. So this is done, and I'm coming back to this thing you need to answer, and I will go with the first, give you some support into this, and this is how I would like you to think, and then you will go and do the rest. It's activity from the book. It is part of your workbook activity from the Orange Book. So number 1 reads, a videotaped recording of a focus group discussion by Year 12 students about the effect of paid work on study time and the Year 12 results. So it's a videotaped recording, that's my keyword, of a focus group discussion. So is it qualitative or quantitative? Focus group, from those who know, they discuss words, qualitative. My question is, are they subjective or objective? Is it their opinion? Yes. So if it is their opinion, it is subjective. So the answer is qualitative and subjective. Okay? Next one, records of reaction times for people who have and have not slept a minimum of 8 hours. So what am I collecting? Okay, correct, I'm collecting the reaction time. Is it qualitative or quantitative? Yes, it is quantitative. But is it subjective or objective? The point is, who is recording the reaction time? The person itself? Does it say, I did that quickly, I did that slowly? Or you have a buzzer who counts the millisecond you react? In the first case, if the person says, it is subjective. In the case the computer is assessing, it is quantitative, objective. So do you understand that? I hope you do. And this is the end of this topic.